What's going on, folks? Welcome to another episode of TikTok. Today, we'll be diving into what it means being above 30. So, our topic today is Adulting 301 Life in Your 30s. And with you today is the usual gang, myself, Innocence, and
Clinton.
And
my name is Toma. Yes.
All right. So, guys, we are all above 30. That's clear. Like some of us have been someone amongst have been above 30 for like 40 years now. And I mean, the whole conversation around 30 gang, 30 plus and everything, it's a thing. It really is a thing. It's not just a figment of our imagination, right? And there's a lot of things that come with it. There is a lot of expectations and everything. So today we're going to do a bit of a dive into that. Why this particular point in life is meaningful or have been pitched a lot by the world, by society, to be a meaningful point of your life. This is a decade before 40. I know what they say about 40. A fool at 40 is a fool for life. So this is the last decade where you have to avoid being a fool at 40. So on today's episode, we're going to take a dive into the physical and health aspect of it, the professional and career part of it, relationships, social life, personal growth. We're going to look at societal expectations and pressure, and hopefully have a couple of words of encouragement for viewers who might be turning 30 or who are already in their 30s and trying to figure it out. Good plan? Don't be afraid to speak up. We know everyone in the world knows you are past 30. You guys should stop shying away from it. Embrace it. Own it. All right?
I'm 22.
Oh, please, sure.
For the sake of the pod, I'm going to pretend that I'm in my 30s.
Oh, please. I think something that often interests me a lot in the internet. A lot of times I go on like one of these reels and all of these chats on Twitter and everything, and people are talking about turning 30. There's all of these memes and funny videos, right? Where someone would like get up and then he would be like 30 plus getting up from bed and their leg is saying fuck no, that kind of stuff. And it's always funny. People laugh, comment and everything. But people don't realize that shit is true. Like that thing is actually really true. It happened to me. I took a nap. I didn't sleep. It wasn't night sleep, or it was like a long sleep. I literally took a less than 30 minutes nap in the middle of the day, some 2 years ago. Yeah. And then I woke up, my left knee says, fuck no. It literally just quit on me. I'm not joking. And this led to 2 years of physical therapy. Right now, I'm no longer doing physical therapy, not because the leg is 100%, but because I was advised to wane off the physical therapy and just see how I'm able to manage. And it's been better than it was back then, but I can still feel it sometimes when it's cold and everything. Literally, I woke up in the afternoon and my leg says, no, I'm not doing that, right? So whenever I see those stuff, I just laugh, I kick it along with everyone and everything, but that stuff is really true.
I mean, as someone with 2 bad knees and a bad back, I cannot even argue. Bad knees, I know it's football.
Mhm.
Partly football, partly because I used to walk a lot. I mean, one time I walked around Akure for like 6 hours. I was just walking around because I was avoiding chores in my uncle's house. And then one time I trekked from Jibo to Ketu. So I've done things like that. And so I think those things affected my knees. But I didn't feel them until I started approaching 30. Then my back was already gone by 25. And I know it was Lagos traffic. And then, I mean, over time, I've been feeling there are days when I wake up and I need someone to step on my back. And it's crazy. But like your body starts to feel different. When I was 21, 20, first of all, I used to take bread, 2 loaves of bread, like agege bread, because one was never enough. So I used to buy 2 together and eat them. And it never used to affect me. I used to play football a lot. And that was my weight loss routine. Like, if I'm feeling fat, I'll just go and play ball. 3 days in a row, I'm back to normal. Like, my body just gets back. But now, my weight keeps increasing. It will reduce small, then increase big, reduce, increase. And that's how it just keeps going. Metabolism, I can't keep up. My food isn't digesting fast enough. Yeah. Nothing. I never thought it could happen to me because I was skinny. I was like,
no, Clint. I actually feel because in my 20s, my exercise routine was very simple. Just leave the house. I kid you not. Like my fitness was just if I leave the house consistently, doesn't have to be every day of the week, just 2 days of the week for a month, I'll be fit as
You'll be fine. Yeah.
fam.
Now,
I've done intermittent fasting, nothing. Everything my body is saying, nope, you're going to keep it.
it's a very terrible reality check, honestly.
Mhm.
Just realize that your body isn't doing the same things it used to do. And you are so confused. Like, I don't understand. This thing always works for me. I mean, if I want to play ball, 2 days, I'm good. What's going on? And now I don't play ball anymore because I had to retire. So that just makes everything worse. Exercise is boring. I tried to use dance.
Because I'm still playing football, thankfully.
God, when?
So the charge brain, is it charging or chagrin? I don't know.
Chagrin.
Tag.
Of my all the important people in my life because it's not like I have great things. So it's a great exercise, and my wife loves that I do it. But
Yeah.
I literally come back from every game limping, and she does that side eye me. I literally destroy me. But yes, all those adjustments happen, and in my case, something very dramatic happened around my 30th. I had a cardiac incident, and dramatically changed my life in more ways than one. It's actually because of two things. So I really got into fitness and working out close to my 30s. And I got into it, like proper into it. I was very skinny. I wanted to bulk up. And over the course of 18 months, I added 20 kg roughly. And well, that came with side effects. Primarily one being that my heart just was like, yeah, we're not doing this. So I had a cardiac event. I had tachycardia for roughly 48 hours. My heart was twice its normal rate for most of that time. And then I was admitted to hospital. I had an ECG. I had a bunch of tests done on me. Apparently, there wasn't anything physiologically wrong with me. My heart was fine, biologically, physiologically. But I needed to change a lot of things, eating habits. Apparently, my cholesterol levels were high, and I was borderline hypertensive as well. And all these things, there are things that you don't consider, and then it's like you just cross the Rubicon around your 30th. And then all of a sudden, it's like this new dimension of life that, okay, this is bust too. And that's what happened to me. So I had to change dramatically what I ate. I had to change how much I drank. I used to drink alcohol in copious amounts. I still drink, but, a lot, like alcohol consumption is, compared to what it was 330, wow. It's like, I think the biggest change I had to make was with my food. So I had to stop eating most red meats. So lamb, beef was out of the picture completely.
Wait, you don't eat lamb and beef anymore?
So I think, maybe in the last couple of years, I've probably eaten either one of them maybe 5 times total. Yeah. So
I don't eat that, but for other reasons.
Yeah. So like not even with suya, as much as I love suya, not even with suya. I have to pick my moment. So when I'm in Lagos, for example, local court is an option. I have to help. But outside of that, I do not dabble with beef. No kind of beef, not meatballs, not beef as in soup. The only type of red meats I can eat, so I was allowed to eat goat meat. The interesting thing is that before this period of time, it's not like I didn't like goat meat, but goat meat wasn't a big thing in my menu. And then
it's more bone.
Goat meat is the goat meat. I've gone all in with goat meat, but mostly I didn't used to eat fish at all. So it's surprising my mom to date how much I eat fish
now.
But it forced on me. I didn't like the smell. I didn't like the texture. I didn't like the look. But I had to start eating a lot of fish. White meat. And then, of course, I made a lot of lifestyle changes in my drinking, how much I exercise. I had to tamp down on working out, but I still kept exercising, usually in the gym. And then later, I decided, okay, I was going to use support since it was a better whole body workout. So, days, I play football once a week at least. Most times, especially since the beginning of this year, rather since maybe Q3/Q4 last year. I started doing it twice a week. But at the very least, I play a football 1 hour, 1.5 hour game, 7 aside, at least 1 a week. It's done wonders for my outside.
Yeah.
That's my all that bulk that packed on when I was working out. I lost a ton of it, and I found like this middling ground where I wasn't skinny, but I also wasn't just fucking also on fat that I didn't need.
It's interesting because I've actually been thinking recently about trying to join like a football or soccer, as they call it. Fucking hell. Anyway, trying to join a football. Like, there is don't try me, don't try goalkeeper extraordinaire. If not for 4 eyes,
goalkeeper. I beg. I'm talking about serious.
But sometimes I muse to myself that had it been as a kid, I was taught how to swim. I don't go fat like this. No, because the most complete, from what I've been made to understand, the most complete full body exercise, the exercise is almost is swimming, right? So if as a kid,
feel it quite that much, yes.
Yeah. So if as a kid I was like inducted into swimming, like if I was introduced to swimming and I had picked up as a habit and loved it, I would be. But now you don't see me like I keep legal distance from bodies of water. Like I literally.
I'm sorry, you're chickening, because if anything, it sounds like you're an old wife still, but it's the truth. The more fat you have in your body, the easier it is to swim.
I don't want to drown.
You can't drown in a 4 feet.
No. That is not what here's the thing.
He can. This guy can. This particular guy.
Shut up. I have an idea. It's simple. If you don't know how to swim, you can never drown. Because think about it. Everyone that I know who has drowned are people.
I'm sorry for you. I'm sorry for you.
It does make sense.
If you don't know how to swim, you will not near the water. That's what I'm saying.
Are you guys watching Shogun?
Not yet.
No, what not started.
Rodriguez is a Portuguese pilot.
Mm-hmm.
So they want to pilot the ships. And then there's this scene where our main character asks him if he can swim, because they're in a bit of a tempest. And he goes, oh no, he can't swim. This guy has been piloting ships across the ocean for 20 plus years, and he can't swim. And he's like, why can't you swim? And he goes, it's a quicker death. It's better for me to like drown in 5 minutes than to swim for
No.
Actually.
Yeah. But in my case, right, I find that you have a certain fear of God when it comes to water. Not necessarily fear, but like you respectfully keep a distance from water if you know you can't swim. You will not willy-nilly get on a boat. If you do, you will wear every safety thing required. But
that's why I don't do the boat trip from it.
I will not do it. When you can swim is when the devil will not enter your head that, do you need this jacket today? Do you understand? You're not going to misbehave.
You can swim.
You can swim.
Don't center like that.
You're not going to get.
You have a plan.
So that's why I can't swim. I'm fine with not learning how to swim. But I also wanted to kind of go back a bit. It's interesting to me that you said you were skinny, because we've known each other for over a decade now, right? But I knew in your 20s, you were not skinny. I mean, you had frame.
We were all skinny.
That's why.
We were all skinny. All of us.
But you had good frame. Like you were.
This thing now.
You also rugby, and maybe and that was also the time you did like, and maybe also because of like the positions where you are and the works you did, and it was in your 20s you started working with I don't know if I'm allowed to say the name, Frank Crowdy. Yeah. You used to work in design and everything in your 20s and everything. Why for some of us, in terms of professional career, so to say, I remember when I was finishing my just before I finished my undergrad, before OAU added 1 more year to it without any extra year, thanks to strike. I think it was in about 2011, just as about to get into my final year. I remember musing to myself that, you know what would be nice? To get a PhD before I turn 26. Yeah. So it's interesting, like the shifts that have happened between my career, so to say, focus in my 20s and now. Now I'm in a position where something I rejected all through my 20s is what I'm doing now. Right? I had a number of urges from my family and parents to go into the academia in my 20s, and I refused it. And now here I am in the academia. But also I don't regret any of those. I don't regret any of those things I spent my 20s doing career wise, because, and this is probably the most important thing about, this whole idea of career and profession. For me, the most important thing about this whole idea of how to focus your career and profession in your 30s is, depending on who you are and depending on how you've lived your 20s, it might not be a new thing, because for every single thing that seemed like were haphazard I did in my 20s, they were all building up to what I am now doing in my 30s.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. So I wonder how that has been for you, Tom, given that, I mean, I have a good idea of how your journey has been around the design world into this. And Clinton also, I wonder how you've been able to compare your career path, how it has evolved through your 20s into your 30s, and if there was like shifting priorities and this thing that people don't like talking about. For some reason, people are beginning to shit on, called the work-life balance.
So when I was somewhere around my mid-20s, I quit my job, my 9 to 5. I said I was done being outside. And I went inside. I entered inside the dark. And I became a full-time recluse because I couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't be outside anymore. Dealing with Lagos. I told you my back was broken. Everything was just like too much. And I stopped. But the thing is, over the years, from early in my career, in fact, I think I started working from when I was in uni. I was already doing things. In fact, even before that, I mean, I was already doing things. I was already trying to. There was something I shared on my IG one time of some plans I made back in 2010. It was this list of things I wanted to do: Photoshop, Cinema 4D, this, that, like very vast. I wanted to try everything because honestly, that's the kind of person I was. I wanted to do it. I wanted to learn everything I could learn, acquire all the knowledge, all of that. And so I was going to do everything. And I honestly tried to do it. I even rapped. I tried to do everything. And as the years passed by, I mean, I honestly didn't know where I wanted to go. I didn't know I had no clarity, no direction about what I really wanted to do. I remember finishing NYSC and coming back to Lagos, and it was time to apply for jobs, and I wasn't sure what I was applying for because I had a degree in IT. I had no interest in IT at the time because I was frustrated in school. It frustrated my life. So I was like, you know what? When I get this degree, I'll just dump it somewhere and I don't give a shit about it. So that's what I did. I emptied out my brain of anything I knew. I didn't try to do all those. You're still supposed to do courses after school because they don't teach you anything you can use to make money in Nigerian schools. You still have to build yourself up. When I came out and I was hearing all the prices that amounts I was going to pay, I was like, I'm not even interested like that. I beg. I just chose it because it was convenient. So I dumped it. So I came out of NYSC and it was time to apply for jobs. Honestly, I felt so lost. What am I applying for? I didn't know. Like I was just confused. All the job roles were just seemed like maybe I'm entering a zone that I don't really know. I felt like an imposter. And so I remember I went for this job interview. So I applied for social media because social media seemed like, something I didn't need to go and acquire a certificate for. I could just flow with. And I applied for social media and social media manager. And then this woman invited me for an interview as an office administrator. I was like, I don't understand. From where to where? So I went for the interview and they first made me wait like 1 hour. And then I first saw me. Like I literally just walked and looked at me and she said, I thought you could do this job, but seeing you can't do it. Like, what? She was like, you're too small. I would need you to be authoritative and handle everybody in the office. You're too small. And in my head, I'm like, I didn't want to apply for the job in the first place. Like, what are we doing here? And then she said, your CV had a typo. So I knew you couldn't do the social media. That thing removed my soul. Because I was like, how do I even explain myself at this point? Because I'm coming to say that I have attention to detail and all that. You're telling me I have a typo in my CV. So that just shut me up and I went home and I was just confused. And I checked my CV, of course, and I realized there was no typo. So I was not angry. So why didn't you just interview me
PhD
for the
man
job
that
I
wants
came
to say
for?
he has attention to details. I want to see he has attention to details.
Calm down, calm down. At the time, I was not aware. I was not aware. So, but like, I was so confused. And do you know how I discovered I knew where to start? It was a TV show. I kid you not. I was watching Mad Men.
Don't drip her.
Yes.
I was watching Mad Men. And I was seeing Peggy. And Peggy was doing everything that I do in my sleep. And I was like, this is me. What's going on? And then they kept calling her copywriter. So I went and I typed copywriter with a COPYRI. And then they said, did you mean copywriter with a W? And I clicked. And I saw the job description. I was like, am I mad? And so I went back on all those job sites. And I started searching for copywriter. And I started seeing everything I want. And I was like, oh shit, this is what I want to do. Because like this stuff is stuff that comes naturally to me. And that's how I started. And there was this job, ad on Twitter. A girl just tweeted, oh, if you know how to speak English very well and you know how to write English very well, just let me know, DM me. So I DM'd her. I thought it was just going to be like a one-time thing, like just do a job and go. And it turned into a full-blown interview. I had to go to Lekki to do the interview and everything. And next thing I know, I got the job and I was hired as a copywriter. I was doing copy for musicians and stuff and big brands and all of that. I was just writing. I was like, how? And so sometimes when people are coming out of school, I talk to a lot of people who come out of school and I always like they are confused about where they want to go and what they want to do. And I always tell them to chill because there's always that anxiety. I felt it. I have friends that felt it as well. You're coming out of school and now you have to think about your career path and where you want to go and you're so confused. And I always tell them, just chill. It will come to you. Like it might seem like you're just, navigating everything on like through the spur of the moment or whatever, but at some point it will come to you. I have a friend who is a lawyer who came out of school, a lawyer who was practicing past few years, and my guy is an accountant now. Like he just stumbled on it and realized his love for it, and it was gone. So sometimes it might not come to you. And you know what I was doing in my 20s? I was hiding from managerial roles, like being like leadership roles. Obviously, that's where the money is. But I don't like that spotlight. I never liked it. I liked being the background guy, the shadower, the guy who just does the background work, let the boss go and handle the boss shit. I don't want to do that. But I don't start getting disrespected. Like you're working in a place and they're just disrespecting you because you don't have this big post, but they can see the value of your work, but you don't have that post or something. So as I was entering my 30s, I said, you know what? This thing I've been hiding from, I'm not hiding again. I'm just going to do it. Like there's a point where you have to elevate yourself and take charge and take on more responsibility and like be out there, put your face out there, put yourself out there and take all the bullets and whatever. And that's what I decided to do with my 30s. So that for me, that was like the significant career thing that happened between my 20s and my 30s. As I started to approach my 30s, I started to think. And by the way, there's this one thing that happened the day after I turned 30. I acquired the arrogance of a 30-year-old. This arrogance that is not spoken about. You want to do something.
Suddenly start feeling like I belong in spaces that you would still feel the imposter syndrome, but you're like, I'm old enough. I think a big factor of it is how we look at 30-year-olds when we're kids. 30-year-olds world figured out 30-year-olds were adults. And then we got to realize, wait, I don't feel like an adult, right? Everyone starts treating you as an adult. They have to like just, okay, you know what, I'm going to own it.
I'm going to with the flow.
An adult, I'm going to act like I belong. I'm going to act like I have it figured out. When someone asks me a question, I don't reply with, I don't know. I reply with,
You're supposed to know.
Give me 1 minute.
But it dawns on you when you're 30, you feel like a young man, like a guy, a youth, and then someone says, "Well, that's man at the corner," and then you look around.
Like, who is the man? Are you talking about?
Like you're expected to know it, to handle stuff. Like
when did I become a man?
They'll cut you some slack when you're in your 20s, though. They'll cut you some slack. But the minute you're 30, nobody's cutting you any slack. You are supposed to handle shit. You're supposed to take responsibility. You are the one. Right? So,
and I'm sorry, I'll say something. I'm saying all this to you, but I'm not going to bother to translate it. I heard it so many times. Fucking sorry for the language. Done my head in so many times. Like, okay. It's very toxic, but unfortunately, That's it. We're fed that. And then there's no excuse. You can't not know. You can't not be able, right? It now becomes a function,
Yes.
not a function of ability or capacity, even if you don't have
Yeah.
the capacity.
You have to find solutions. Everything is demystified as you grow up.
Exactly.
And like everything.
And that's one of the key things.
It's a big issue, I think, in the sense that, like you said, it's demystified. You grow up and then it feels like all the joy in life is sucked out of you.
Yep.
I don't think I think it's as a result of, unfortunately, capitalism is an amazing thing, right? Let me not lay it down.
Not for me.
Right? It's too simplistic, actually. Let's say the system of the world that we have today is amazing because globalization means that we can do this, right? No. It feels like it's a deeper subject, but please just allow me. And not just you,
allow you.
everybody who's listening. Allow me to be superficial. Allow me not to think it too critically, right? But it's writing comments to drag me. So now, the system of the world is amazing, but it also means that it has to sustain itself. And the way it sustains itself is by creating individuals who curious, right? It wants hardworking individuals who come into a system who, grind for 40, 50 years and then sign out and then live another 10, 12 years and die. And then rinse and repeat over and over and over again. And unfortunately for us, all the amazing things that we have in today's world, maybe there's another way we have gotten to it. But right now, the world that we have today is because of that system. A big part of why that system continues being fed with, canon fodder in that sense is that adulthood or the journey to adulthood strips all of the pursuits or the desires of joy from us. Take a couple steps back, right? Just look at how old Darwin was when he first started postulating his theories, not when he published, right? When he started postulating. Same thing with Albert Einstein, right?
Yeah.
Even though the world was to become what it was today, he was a guy. He was in his 20s, and he still came up with the gangster shit that he's come up with that people at CERN have not been able to come up with anything that, is close to that level of breaking, the world of physics. The same thing applies to so many of the innovators. Let's just even go to the Renaissance, right? People like Michelangelo, people like Leonardo. Just all you need to do, anybody who hasn't done it before, literally just find a list of 10 innovators from at least 100 years ago, right? And just Google how old they were when they had their first big thing that they gave to the world. And then you realize that today's world does us such a big disservice because there's millions, literally millions of people with world-breaking ideas that will never get them out. Because unfortunately, you have to grind to be able to survive. And grinding and curiosity, they just don't mix. They don't mix.
We grew up wanting to change the world.
And then
What's the point of us to change Africa?
So I want us to, I don't know how much time we've spent, but I want us to go into like the social strata part of this, because the professional and the social kind of, sometimes they mix, sometimes they don't. Yeah. And in fact, this particular, I actually want us to take it kind of structurally, and I'm kind of structured in a way. So Tomiwa, I would like if you could start us off on that. And I mean, what has it been like for you in terms of the dynamics of relationship, not just romantic relationship, but also friendship and family. How has that changed from your 20s to your 30s?
So I think that is a fundamental thing at the core of my relationships as I matured. It's a point that I made earlier, which is that essentially I started finding out more about myself in 30 plus. It then helped me frame a lot of the choices that I made in my 20s in a clearer light. The good choices, the bad choices, the absolutely dreadful choices. And I look back on them, understanding at every point in time why I made that. There were times where those decisions meant I came out on top. There are times when those decisions that were made for me on behalf of me, to me, in a sense, meant I came out as the loser. But I think that crossing that Rubicon again just gives me, or rather gave me a lot of clarity. And it then made my choices going forward a lot more informed. Now, I'm using a lot of big technology, right? And so good, I have had a lot of relationships in my life, romantic and otherwise. And I like to think that at my core, I try my best to be a good person. But I am also very cognizant of the fact that no matter how good you can choose or try to be, you will be the bad person in certain circumstances. Because every time you choose yourself, life can be both a non-zero sum game and a zero sum game, right?
Yeah.
And in circumstances where it's a zero sum game, when you choose yourself, or you choose your personal interest, or you choose your selfish interest, it means that someone else loses, someone else is hurt, someone else is, you're taking away from someone else. So I guess my point is, because I understood myself better, it then made me more decisive, right, with my choices in my relationship. So I'll start with my friendship. A lot of the friends I have today are friends that I have for the last 10 years, 10 plus. There's a couple of friends that have become acquaintances. There's a couple of acquaintances that have become friends, right? But the big difference is that in my 20s, those things happened randomly. It just happened. People drifted in and out of my life, and I wasn't exactly sure why or when. It just happened. But in my 30s, there's been clarity, right? And there's something I like to say that stresses my wife, right? I always tell her that money is a tool for me. And that every time someone who is in my life tries to cheat me, right, or tries to play the fast one on me, as long as the price is money, as long as what they took from me is money, I always like to say that I've just paid the price of essentially knowing that they don't deserve to be in my life, right? So if someone cheats me or thinks they pull the fast one on me or cuts me under the knee or rats me out or talks bad about me or kills an opportunity for me, whatever the monetary value of that opportunity or cost or cheating might be, is a monetary. So I paid, you cheated me 500,000 naira. Fine. So you see that 500,000 naira, paid 500,000 naira. So that in 10 years' time, when $100 million is on the line, I won't depend on you. Pay 500K now to ensure that will never happen. So it just shows you how clear and how decisive my thinking is around my interpersonal relationships and friendships. And with my romantic relationships, it's also been, the same story. And I am with my wife is the most spectacular person that I've met in my life. And I say that not because she's the person I'm married to, but again, I realized that she was my first love and I was always in love with her. And I never realized, I met her when we were teenagers. We didn't have contact for 16 years. We met again. And I realized that I was just waiting for her this whole time. And I say that without doing disservice to the in-between, right? I met a lot of amazing people that I was with, romantically and otherwise in that time. In many ways, I gained and I learned and I grew with them. And I like to feel like I gave something back. So the core of everything I'm saying is that choices became a lot more deliberate from me, right? So when I met my wife, I knew that, I'm going to marry this. But I still dated her for 2 years before I married her. Even though when I say when I met her, I mean when I met her again after the 16 years period where I met her again and I knew instantly. I didn't tell her this, she didn't know. But I knew instantly that this person I am going to be with for the rest of my life. I want to be with for the rest of my life. But I give myself 2 years to essentially allow my head to meet my heart. My heart made the decision on the instant. My head had to meet my heart, at the same place. And again, the reason being that because my decision making became more decisive, I understood, okay, these are certain things that need to be accommodated, taken care of. I'm not sure what the right term is. And eventually I got to that decision on my feet. So yeah, clarity in decision making, decisiveness in actions. And I guess one more thing that I haven't touched on is I want to say lack of regrets, but just an understanding of everything that I've done, right? Where I have been a bad person, clear acknowledgements, I don't deny it. When I've been able to apologize and make amends, I have. When I haven't, at least I don't gaslight myself into thinking, I did everything right. I wasn't a bad person. So yeah, that's how it's been for me.
Yeah, solid.
That's it.
My cue. Okay. That was actually great. Like listening to that. And I've learned a lot from your experiences, the ones that you've shared. I've learned a lot actually. I wanted you to know that. So one thing that I don't think we've really mentioned, but kind of hit my head when Innocent was talking the other time.
Yeah.
Is the fear of turning 30 very, very, very strong. I had it too, to be honest. Because I mean, my biggest selling point, like I said before, was that I was young and I loved it. I loved being young. I wanted to be an adult too, but I loved being young because the perks were so many. And then I lost that. I started growing old. One day I woke up, I was 25. And one day I woke up, I was almost 30. Like as the months were approaching, as the month was approaching, months were going by. I was like, and to be honest, there was something I said I was going to do by my 30th if something didn't happen by my 30th. And thankfully I didn't do it. But it was really dark. And I had put so much pressure on myself. In fact, I think when I was like 27, I sat with myself and I had to stop because I put so much pressure on myself, not because of anything on the outside, but because of everything the standards I had set for myself.
Yeah.
And I think that was why it was so hard to deal with, because it was me setting the standards. I wasn't comparing myself with anybody on the outside. I was comparing myself with what I had told myself I was going to be by 25, by 26, 27. And I had very high standards because I grew up thinking I was special. So if I'm special, I should be able to do this at 21, at 23, unrealistic standards, like crazy standards. And I got to a point I had to stop. And I told myself, I don't want to be ambitious anymore. And I stopped being ambitious. All I was doing was, I'm not thinking 5 years ahead because it was too much. It was taking a toll on me. I'm not thinking 5 years ahead. I'm thinking about tomorrow. And every day I go through the day, I get to the end of the day, I sit down with myself and I say, what made me happy today? And this is a question I ask my friends every now and then. What made you happy today? Was there any moment where you were just genuinely happy? Forget about everything else. And I started doing that every day to check, like, okay, did something make me happy today? And that's okay. That's my happiness allocation for the day. Move on to the next day. And I'm trying not to think about 5 years down the line, because if I fall short, it's the toll it takes on me. It's like when you fall off, you're climbing out of a valley and you fall down the 1st time, you break your back. Take some time, you recover, you stand up again, you climb again, you fall, you break your back again. Now that back is not like the first time you broke it. You've broken it once before. So now it's worse. By the 5th time, I'm not standing up, not because I can't stand up. I'm not trying to climb, not because I can't climb, but because I'm terrified of what happens if I fall again. I will break my back again. And this back has been broken 50 times before. I'm terrified of the outcome of that. So I started trying to be more careful about even like looking too far ahead or planning or having expectations. I started becoming, I'm quite a pessimist, but I think that every team needs a pessimist. You need a pessimist because the pessimist is the one that will poke all the holes and you'll be forced to fix it. So I kind of appreciate pessimists, but I try not to be so pessimistic because then you drive everybody away. But he just started becoming this person who was living on a day-to-day basis. And that's why I was also a recluse, because I didn't want to have to interact with the world. I just wanted my life to be passing by, just be passing by. And it was actually when I started approaching 30, it now got really like much worse, because I was like, what do I have? I have no assets. I don't have this. I've never been in a relationship before. Yes, I haven't. I've not. Like, what did I do in my 20s? I started to think. And there was really nothing I had done in my 20s. Like, it was empty. Yes, I made some memories here and there. But I started thinking I could have done so much more at this point. At this point, I started reviewing everything. And 30 terrified me, because all of a sudden and I think it was worse because of everything that was happening around the world, and the world just got more vicious.
Yeah.
And the years were passing by so quickly. And it was like, I can't keep up. And next thing, I'm almost 30. And I'm looking back, I've not done anything with my life, right? But then a switch happened when I turned 30. When I turned 30, I realized that I was young. That's the irony. When I was 25, I was feeling old. 27, I was feeling old. Then I turned 30 and I realized, oh shit, I'm young. Every day of my 30s, I've been realizing how young I am. Yes, okay, in 10 years' time, you are in your 40s or something, yes. But I used to look at it before, like, once you are 30, you're grown up.
Thing.
It's this big thing. And I got there and I'm looking around me and everybody's 31, 32, on and on like that. And I'm like, okay, so this is it. And really, nothing changed except me feeling like I was, younger. I was feeling younger. And I tweet it every time and people laugh at me and say that consoling yourself. But honestly, you feel younger when you are like you cross that line and you are able to now think about it and realize that you know. And so in terms of relationships and dating and what 30 has brought for me, first of all, I've decided to live in my 30s. That was the first thing I told myself after I got into 30. By the second day of being 30, I just told myself I need to live in my 30s. I didn't live in my 20s. I didn't do anything. And so I started doing stuff. I started going out more all of a sudden. Started meeting people, having conversations with women, strangers, just going out and just doing stuff and trying to live. And it was a different feeling from when I was in my 20s. I started to do that. I started to also open my mind up a bit to the possibility of settling down because I always said I was never going to get married, never going to have kids, none of that. I mean, I still feel like that, but now it's more like I don't have the doors shut anymore, the windows shut. It's like, okay, if it happens, it happens. I'm not close to it. And it was because I met a woman. Okay, so yeah, I met someone who, from interacting with the person, kind of changed my perspective of a lot of things. Changed my perspective of a lot of things. And I realized that I'd been too rigid, right? But that too also came with a certain assurance and confidence in myself. I had confidence before. I was very arrogant in my early 20s. But life beats that arrogance out of me. Like it battered me to the point where I started having imposter syndrome and all of that. But then when I crossed my view, I don't know how it happened. It was almost automatic, but I also got to define everything about me. Every single thing. I reviewed all my past relationships, friendships, love related stuff. I reviewed everything I did wrong, everything I did right, everything, why things happened the way they did. I reviewed everything. I took a stand on issues as well. All the things that I had been dilly-dallying over, I took a stand, and I defined who I am. I defined my path, where I want to go career-wise, where I want to go relationship-wise, where I want to go in everything. So now I've become a more assured person in everything, like the conviction over everything that I am and everything that I stand for and my values, the way I view myself, like it's just so different. And I will attribute it to being like to crossing that line into 30 because there's a certain wake up call that it gives you when you cross. You realize that, I can't be dilly-dallying over things anymore. I need to take responsibility. If you don't tell yourself that, people will tell you, like we said earlier, people will tell you that, oh God, you are not a child anymore. What's the meaning of this? Everybody expects you to take responsibility. And there's this article I wrote one time about Benzema, where I talked about how responsibility made him. And it was after Cristiano Ronaldo left. And all of a sudden, Ronaldo, you couldn't hide behind Ronaldo.
Yep.
If you score 5 goals in a season, it matters. Before, it didn't matter. Ronaldo scored 60. But now, if you score 5, you are the one that will take the criticism. You have to. And I believe so much in responsibility. That's why when I work with young people, when I deal with young people, I like younger people because I'm still young. I like to give,
You are 79. To own up to
Like-
your age.
I like to, when I work with young people, I like to give them responsibility and get them to figure it out.
Yeah.
Because it's going to
It
matter
will stick.
to them later.
Yeah.
To stick. When you find solutions on your own, and then luckily for me, when I was in uni, I also joined this group where if they sent you out to do something, you have to come back with results. Now, you might not come back with the direct result that they asked you to go and get, but you have to come back with a solution. So if we say go and get speakers, if you go there and the person they sent you to get speakers from isn't around, you don't come back and say the person isn't around. You talk to somebody and you find out who else has speakers that you can get. Worst case scenario, you come with a phone number and say, oh, I didn't meet the person, but I got a phone number of another person. I'm going to call the person. So I've always dealt in groups and spaces where solutions are priority. You have to figure it out. And that's how I deal with younger people. And so in conclusion, responsibility. Like I think that's the greatest gift that being 30 plus has given me. That sense of responsibility, that sense of, I need to step up to the plate. And once you have that feeling of responsibility, now this is not in a negative light. It's not a burden. It's, if anything, it does the opposite for you. It helps you to fly.
Yeah.
Like you feel that sense of responsibility and it drives you forward.
Rise.
And one thing I always say is that the ego thing that we talk about for men, it's a double-edged sword, right? On the negative side, it does things, it makes you act a certain way and all of that. On the positive side, it gets you to get shit done. Men need that arrogance to be able to get shit done. There's a certain me care. Like there's
Is it possible
me.
you are the one that need the arrogance and not men? Is that
I
a
think
personal problem?
All men.
I think you need a certain level of arrogance to be able to be ambitious enough to make things happen.
Masculinity relies on it, actually.
It relies on it.
That's another topic, another day.
Well, I should say before we move on, I should say while masculinity might rely on it, it is also important for your life not to be defined by the frames of masculinity or what that might be, because it puts undue pressure.
Yes.
1000%. Yeah, I'm not. I do identify as a masculine. Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, you get to define your own masculinity.
Yeah. Yes, that's it. You define it. You define what it is for you, what it means. So do what you're proud of, essentially. Do what you want to point back to, 2 years later or 10 years later or 20 years later and say, yeah, I did that and I own it. And I love the point you made about responsibility because honestly, I mean, again, it's one of those things that it feels like you just flipped a switch in my head. But I was listening to you and it hit me that a lot of my growth after I crossed the Rubicon was also because I had massive responsibility on my hands around that time. Yeah. The sense of responsibility that comes with crossing the Rubicon of 30, I want to say it forces you to grow, but you also have to be willing to grow, right? Because there's a reason why the word Agbaya exists, right? I'm not sure is there an English equivalent for Agbaya?
Overgrown baby.
Yeah, there's no.
I mean, I think the closest is man child or like adult child, because man child is also gendered in that sense, but like an adult child, like an
So exactly. So Agbaya is,
but it doesn't really capture it.
So that word is, and I'm also very appreciative of local languages because across all our different languages, you see a lot of English suffers from not being able to capture concepts in words. English borrows a lot from that. So you see a word like Schadenfreude, for example. It's a German word, but it's a fantastic way to capture a concept. Anyways, back to our original point. We see many Agbayaks today, right? The rhino mockery and whatnot. I'm sorry, I said his name.
No, I'm not sorry you said his name.
I know him personally, but I know him from his antics and his, the things he does, and he says is if you want to get the dictionary definition of the concept of Agbaya is Reno Omokri embodies it, right? He embodies a lot of things. He embodies being an Agbaya. He embodies charlatanism. He embodies double speak. We can go on and on and on. He's the poster child for everything you shouldn't do once you cross the Rubicon. So if You have not heard anything, all the good things that we have said. Please, just don't be a mockery and you'll be fine. Right? Yeah. Anyways, that responsibility for growth on you. You have to respond positively to it. Whether that the source of responsibility is external, whether it's internal, whether it's a family, whether it's your job, whether it's relationship, wherever it comes from, you have to rise to it. And once you do, when you do, you will see yourself grow as a person. You see the way you think grow. You see the way you think evolve. You see the way you appreciate and understand, different things also evolve. So responsibility, or rather, the responsibility is key. And again, I guess I've said a lot about responsibility and rising to is, I think one of the most useful tools in being able to do that is introspection and an acknowledgement that even though everybody expects you to have it all figured out, you can never have it all figured out. It doesn't mean that you should listen to every Tom, Dick, and Harry, right? You will lose your way, right? But if everything that you receive, whether it's advice, whether it's input, whether it's some article on Harvard Business Review that you read somewhere, if you're able to introspect, if you're able to digest against your core principles, I like to say I have like strong beliefs weakly held, right? Believe things that I believe very strongly. I also believe that new information can change those beliefs, right?
Yeah.
And very come to it. So if you can take all those things and then against your core values, introspect and say, okay, you know what, this is the way to go. Okay, no, this is bad advice, or this is bad news. And then you move forward with decisiveness. You pick a way forward and you move. If you're successful, own it. If you're unsuccessful or you're wrong, also own and acknowledge it and find another way to do things. Then get it fun.
Yeah. So thinking about our responsibility that you're talking about, and also how so it's I also think sometimes the way we approach responsibility, the way we approach responsibility is a very social cultural thing also, right? And sometimes what we approach responsibility in our 30s could be a result of how we approached it in our 20s. Because, for example, I would say I was musing the other day, and I thought for a brief moment, I don't know if this is true or not, but I thought I grew up way too fast. I think my early 20s, I was, at least not in terms of family, but in terms of like mentally, I was putting on weights of things that people should be putting on themselves in their late 30s on myself, right? And what then translated to in my late 20s was an abandonment of everything. Because, just this morning, I was thinking to myself that I actually never had a typical 20s. Like, I'm not joking. I didn't have the 20s that most people have, like the kind of life you have in your 20s. I never got to philander. I never got to. I'm not joking. Like,
I agree.
but just
For someone
just
that
do things for
your 20s,
yeah.
it felt like felt like you grew way faster than we did. So you took on more responsibility. You were more of an adult, even though we were age mates, right? You were more of an adult quickly, faster. So
I remember someone, I think was it Nonso or Emmanuel Duma, who once joked, and this was I was what, 21 or there about that, and the person joked like, "Wait, are you going through midlife crisis?" I'm like, I'm too young to be going through, but this kind of shaped has kind of in a certain way shaped how I've understood the ideas of purpose, fulfillment, and also the way I approach things around, social connections and all of that. Because and you were right when you said like it's difficult to make more. I was watching something yesterday. I was explaining how the older you grow, the more difficult it is to make friends. And you kind of stick with the friends you already know. And there's this song by Kenny Rogers, well, an album by Kenny Rogers, and then there's a song, the eponymous song of the album called "You Can't Make Old Friends." I think about that song sometimes when that idea comes to mind. I usually think about that line, "You can't make old friends." So the duet between Kenny Rogers and Dolly Parton.
You listen to Kenny Rogers.
I listen to everything, man. I listen to
you are 25.
I would rather listen to Kenny Rogers than listen to Drake. What are you saying?
No, my favorite rapper is Tupac. So I listen to 80s music more than modern music.
So what are you saying?
I'm just emphasizing that you are
a better musician than Drake. Excuse me.
Of course. Is that a question? Like, are you serious right
of course. But my point is, it kind of did shape a lot of that, right? But right now I'm also open to new relationships. What I find is that the relationships I made in my 20s are such that even when I think the difference between the relationship I made in my 20s and in my 30s now is in my 30s, maybe because of the shift in social space or in cultural space that I am now, there's a lot more expectation of following up on it. Not all of the friends I've made in my 30s are in their 30s. A lot of them are in their 60s, 70s, and a lot of them are in their 20s. So there's a lot of expectation of following up now. And then there is, well, but the friends I made in my 20s, even when we don't follow up for 2 years, I'll pick the phone and we speak. It's like we just saw yesterday, right?
Yeah.
And that is, it's refreshing, given that my early 20s I never experienced. I lived in them, but I didn't experience it. So it's refreshing to get on the phone and speak to a friend and shoot the breeze about life back then. What better to know is in my head, I'm thinking, God, if only I just just behave like a human being of that time, maybe it would have been slightly different. But I don't regret any of the things that a lot of times when I'm speaking to people, I always talk about, oh, I have this theory, I have that theory. And it's a point that it's getting annoying to some people and tiring for others. But I explained to someone that in my late teens and in my early 20s, I spent most of my time in my head thinking about a lot of those theories, thinking about developing an ideology and a theory for concepts like love, trust, honesty, hope, faith. I literally, like, I not written down, but all of those concepts still exist in my head as I developed them then, right? And
Right.
those concepts kind of now drive the way I pursue fulfillment or passion, because I've come to certain understandings. Like what I was saying earlier, the money is a tool. This is something I theorize about much earlier in life. And money was still just a tool to achieve things, right? It doesn't mean that you don't need money, but it's just a tool to achieve things. The reason I don't regret spending my 20s in all of those theorizing states and everything is because it has fully, in some way, I speak with some people, friends, and they're like, oh, that's that great way. Most of it, everything I say now, I didn't think about them now. I thought about them in my 20s and in my teens. I'm not joking. Like, if I tell someone that, oh, I have this theory and I share the theory, it is either I developed the theory in my 20s or the theory is based on something I developed in my 20s. And I've tested them and they still kind of work out for me. So when it comes to finding purpose for me now, I had figured out my purpose in my 20s. And I started working on them just as I became. Not, I started working on them before then, but like the most impactful step I took towards it, I took that just as I crossed into 30, right? So I a lot of difficulties along the way, but I know for certain that I have figured out my purpose, right? It's now just a question of making it work out the way I want it to work out. I know the things that give me satisfaction. I know the things that I do and I feel like, yes, this is it, right? And there are a lot of other things I do aside from that. There is room for all of that within, but it's important not to it is important if if you're in your 20s and you have the time. Well, think about these things. But if you're in your 20s and you want to be a young person, be a young person. Enjoy it, believe me.
Allow
When
yourself
you
to
get to your
break in.
30s, yeah. So there was this, was it Steven Nelson or which actor was that? Who, I wasn't even, I can't remember who was saying that no one should call her auntie because and she's in her 40s, in her mid 40s or thereabouts. So she wants to enjoy her youth now because she didn't have time to enjoy her youth when she was a youth. And that is valid. And that happens a lot when you don't enjoy your youthful years. And I'm not saying the only thing you should do in your youthful years is party hard and all of that. I never really did go to parties, but make room, understand your personality and what you can do at that moment. And it helps a lot. It goes a long way. And then by the time you're turning 30, you find out that all of those things you did kind of crystallize. But if you're also in your 30s and you never had time to do that, you still have time. It is it's a false narrative to say, oh, once you've crossed to 30, well, that's it's all over. No, you still have time. One, also two, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. It is perfectly fine for you to adopt a philosophy. You don't have to develop your own philosophies. It's perfectly fine to decide that, you know what, I'm going to strictly adopt the philosophy of Sufism, or strictly adopt the philosophy of Catholicism, or strictly adopt the philosophy of Buddhism, or adopt the philosophy of the man who sits by the corner of the roadside and sings every morning when I walk past him. Right? It is fine to find the thing that works for you at any point in your life. Don't ever think that you've gone past the point. And this is why my mind always goes back to Adebola Williams. The fact that she handles, she, and I don't know what goes on in the back of her mind. I definitely don't. All right. But the fact that she built a personality around this makes it clear to anyone. And she's a storyteller. She's a brand storyteller, right? So she knows how to do this well. But it makes it clear that it's never too late. It really is. It doesn't have to be gloomy. It doesn't have to be all of this, because if you put so much pressure on yourself, you make it worse. Society is going to put pressure on you. Like, society is not going to give you release. It's going to put pressure on you. So someone has to offer the release. My brother, my sister, it has to be you yourself. Because nobody else is going to speak for you. You are the one who is wearing the shoe. That person who wears shoe know where it is by time. Exactly. So you have to be the one to give yourself that release. Because and it's fine to have career changes in your 30s. It's fine to decide that if you can, I'm not a scientist, but I'm pretty sure you can have children in your 40s. It's difficult. It's more difficult and all of that, but you can do that also. See, of the three of us, yeah, you can adopt. There's nothing wrong with that. And you can also decide you don't want to have a child. Right? Yep. Of the three of us on this call, only one of us is successful enough to have a wife. The other one has been pet zoned.
I've been running away. I'll have you know that my singularity is not a lack of opportunity. It's a choice. It is a choice.
So I would jump in here and say that I didn't know that I was ready to get married until I knew. Right?
Quick one, Tommy.
Wait, I'll couch it with at no point in time did I feel like I was successful enough to go. In fact, up till now, I still feel like I'm not supposed to be able to afford being married. Right? I don't have the kind of success that when I was giving it out, I thought I would need to have to be married. Right? Being married comes with a lot of responsibility. Right? I kid you not, up till as we speak right now, kid you not, I still feel like I'm not there. I've not gotten there. So it's not just this lever that you push down, or a switch that you click and then you're like, yes, what's the there and so now I can finally do it. Right. And I'm going to go back to something that you said, the sentiment that you shared earlier about, you taking time away from dating because you do not want to, continuously break or hurt people.
Yeah.
And I think that a fundamental part of learning about yourself and growing is having a third party observe and report on you. So what that third party is, whether it's a personal friendship, whether it's a relationship, whether it's multiple third parties, it's extremely important that as much as introspection is key, there's so many things that you do, that you say, that you are, and you will never be able to observe until the third party points it out to you. Especially as you grow, especially as your responsibilities increase, especially as your day-to-day becomes more choked, more packed, busier. And your role, again, is still introspection. You have to be open enough to receive this feedback. But you also have to put yourself in a place to even be able to generate the feedback in the first place. Right? It's extremely key. So I'm not putting a pin in your balloon and saying, no, you're wrong. I'm just saying that as key as it is to grow on your own and to, help or keep yourself from hurting other people, the truth is change is fundamental to life. Everything turns to entropy, right? We can't do anything about it, right? The whole point of Tenet, Christopher Nolan's movie, was to say that time is a function of entropy, actually, as opposed to entropy being a function of time. We can talk about I'm obsessed with movies. We can talk about that on another
I
day.
am obsessed with movies also.
Yeah. But the point is, entropy is inevitable. Everything tends towards entropy. Everything will break. Everything will burn. Everything will get destroyed. Everything will die. So thinking that keeping yourself, you are making yourself, yes, I hear you. And there is a lot of merit in, you saying that. But essentially what you're doing is it's like you're not really doing it, but it feels like you're slowing down entropy. But the only way to grow and to develop is to break things, right? You know how they say that, the child that's insistent on putting his hand in a candle flame, right? He will learn eventually when he puts his hand in it. The child doesn't learn until he gets burned. And trust me, you can keep that child away from the flame till the child is 20. 20-year-old, yeah.
I will do it. Yeah.
And it will burn it, and he will learn harder and better than your 20 years old. Don't put your hand, I'll spank you, I'll flog you. So my point is, and for as many in the same framework, I'm not saying go out there and be this disaster that's going around hurting people. No, I'm saying don't shut yourself off, one. And two,
Yeah.
and this is something that I think everybody in my life can acknowledge. Something that I've always held is that I have what I like to term as radical honesty. Right? Honest to a fault. Honest to to a fault. Literally, like irritating honest. Honestly, even when I don't, to be honest, I'm trying to work on it. I'm trying to have a little more guy and lie a little more. I'm not very good at that. But be radically honest and don't shut yourself up. Open up yourself to relationships, friendships. A great thing about sports, especially a sport like football, is that it opens you up to friendships that you don't realize. Like you don't even know when they happen, but they happen. Because with men, we become friends easily. Literally, once you go through a traumatic event with a man, you have become friends for life, or at least acquaintances at the very least, right?
Mhm.
Like with the opposite gender, it's literally just sharing interests, because it makes me laugh how many men think that you need to impress a woman with money. How many men think that you need to, have the best clothes. So open yourself up, but be also radically honest. Extremely important, because I guarantee you, there's so many blind spots. There's so many things about yourself that you have no idea that you do, that you say, that you act, that you react. Up to now, I'm still covering many things. It just takes me to point out, okay, why do you do that? And then you'll be like, okay, I thought about that. Why is the most powerful question in the world? And every time a why comes from a third party, I guarantee you changes something about the one.
So I think we should be wrapping up. So a lot of this has been, well, sadly, well, not sadly, but a lot of this has been more like speaking to other persons. But I don't like, I wouldn't want to admit, like I said, I almost didn't have a life in my 20s. So I wouldn't say all our 20s, all the journey to 30s were perfect. They weren't for all of us in different ways. So the question is, if there is one lesson or advice you would give to your younger self, if you had to like go back and give them, and please don't say you tell them to invest in Bitcoin. Like I'm talking about like life lesson.
Who tell them to invest?
Invest and pull your money out immediately, climb. I don't care. Anyway, but if there's one lesson, like one advice you could go back and give to your younger self about getting a decade ago, about like the 20s heading up to the 30s, what would it be? Clinton first, and then Thomas.
So the one thing I'll tell myself is to let myself go. That was something I was a very, very uptight, conservative person. I felt like I was really just like that too, even though I was, but I was just uptight. I used to overthink. And one of the problems, or one major reason why that happened, was that I grew up around my brother and his friends. My brother was way older. So I was not living as maybe a 14-year-old at 14. I was living like someone that was maybe 6, 7, 8, 9 years older, because I was listening to everything they were saying. So I didn't know how to be immature when I was supposed to be immature. I was supposed to be stupid. Like, you're supposed to make mistakes, You're supposed to just allow yourself to make mistakes. As long as it's not like life altering or anything like that. Just allow yourself do stupid shit sometimes. But you see me, I'm thinking ahead. And that also prevented me from having relationships as well because I was a long-term person. At 18, I was thinking whoever I'm going to date has to be someone I can marry. What kind of nonsense is that? No, like just date and let it flow. No, I'm thinking this person can just be together for the next 10 years. What if? What if? And it held me back from a lot of things. And I entered adulthood like that. So, like in everything, I was always overthinking. I was thinking 5, 6, 7 years ahead for things that you're just supposed to live in the moment with. This guy just wants that's why are you doing calculation? You get this job that you're trying to avoid or you're trying to not do, or this thing that this responsibility you're running away from. Just do it. You can make mistakes, you can look bad. But I was always thinking about how it would look if I failed, if this didn't work out. And to be honest, I still failed though. Multiple things. But even accepting that I failed was hard. Like, because I was just so I wanted to get it right once. That's the point. With everything, I wanted to get it right the first time. And it's not bad to want to get it right. But it's bad when you hold yourself back because you are trying to make sure that you get something right. So if it's not perfect, you don't even venture. You don't try. So the thing I'll tell my younger self is, guy, unclench your butt. Just bloody do it, right? If it fails, it fails. There's this thing. It's Timothy Chalamet. What's his name? Man. I like the guy a lot. The thing says it's a scene from a place where he's like, "What if we die?" Right? And then the next thing it says is, "What if we
Then we
fucking
die.
no? What if we fucking live?" And that thing, like the first time I saw it, it just stuck with me because what if we fucking live? Okay, yes. What if we die? Me, I'm not scared of death, but might as well just try because you still die anyway. So why you not trying? You can die at 20. You can die at 50. You can die at any point in time. But one thing you should never allow to be said about you is that you didn't try, that you held back just because you were scared of failing or scared of like just let yourself go. And I wish I knew that when I was younger, but now I know, and I'm trying to live based on that principle. Now I'm pretty crazy. I will explore anything that catches my interest, and I'm a lot braver. I'm very brave now. So yeah.
Tomorrow.
Quentin, thank you for sharing. I know that I struggle with, bravery. And in fact, up to today, it's something I still judge myself harshly for. But I made a lot of big bets in my life also. And where I am today, because obviously I have a lot of help from a lot of people, but a lot of it also because I made some insane bets. One of the most insane, for example, being moving to Lekki while earning 150,000 before tax, and it's interesting. But
I can't try it.
I think generally, if I were to go back, and talk to myself, I would just tell myself to double down. Right? Some of the things that I literally don't know, I doubted my capacity to execute on. Tell myself, yeah, I literally just show myself, like, okay, this is what I'm doing. There's big bets that you're bold enough to make. And then
Yeah.
what if you double down, right? There's so many opportunities that I could have made. I could have been slightly more aggressive. I could have taken more risks. And I don't regret any of my choices, right? Well, essentially, I'll just go back and tell myself, yeah, this is your validation. Take that bet. You will have it sorted. You will figure it out. You will excel, if anything. And yeah, that'll be it. Just take big bets, leverage the experience principles that other people have laid down. Like, look at the greats, look at the people that, aim to be like, and look at what they did and didn't do. And then take, I guess, principle, knowledge, lessons from the choices they made, and then apply them to your situation. But the situation is obviously, a lot weirder than theirs, or a lot different from theirs. Whether you grew up rich, whether you grew up poor, it doesn't matter. And then just take big bets. Don't bet on tell me why don't bet on your present. Bet on your capacity. Bet on your perception of self. Bet on what you hope to be in 10 years, in 5 years, in 2 years. Bet on yourself. And then, see the possibilities. So yeah, that'd be it.
It, See, for me, it's not going to be so philosophical. If I could go back and give a message to my younger self a decade, it would be, guy, your knee will fuck you up in your 30s. So do all the running now and keep in good shape so that you don't wake up one afternoon after a short nap and your knee will say, hell
Just
no. So
Yeah.
yeah, no, that's why I'm going to. I'm not even being decent about it. I think so the first thing is your leg is going to fuck you up in future. So take care of it. Take care of your body.
Yeah, but
Not because of any societal views or anything, just because your health is going to be a bit difficult when you get into the next decade, just so that you can have an easier walk through that. That would be my very simple message. Just I go and jog. I wake up, go jog. Anyway, but really, I'm interested to see to hear what's whoever is listening, or as Tom said last time, whoever has the misfortune of listening, feel free to add whatever goals and whatever experiences and perspectives you've had on the in the chats if you're watching on YouTube, or if you're listening on the podcast. Also, feel free to think they can comment on podcasts. I believe in most podcasts. I don't know how some of those apps work. I just put them on and I put them on my headphones and I'm done. So yeah, add that comment and add whatever message whatever you might be going through. If you're in your 20s, your 30s, and if you're 30s, please share the experience of what it has been like being your 30s. What the difference has been between your 20s and your 30s. As for us, it's been a mixed bag, but a lot of good points. And that's basically why I want us to talk about this, right? Because there's a lot of expectations put on this particular age, and it's not just one thing. It's an interesting mixed bag. You're not at 40, so you're not at a fool forever. 40. But there is so much space, so much ability, and so much opportunity for things to rise and become whatever they may be. Anyway, so thank you for anyone who listens to this. I'm pretty sure I can speak for the three of us that we're very grateful if you spend your time listening to this. We're not, this conversation is not to make anyone feel bad about where they are, but to make you realize that you're still alive. There's so much more you can do. So long as there is still life, there is endless possibilities. There's this thing I do when watching ball. No matter what the scoreline is in the first half, so long as it's still in the first half, I believe it can be overturned in the second half.
Man United have shown us.
Twice. But do you understand? Man United have shown us. They've proven my theory, right? I never feel bad if I see someone losing 6-0 in the first half, so long as they're still in the first half. Because the way I look at it is, it's the same amount of time that your opponent used to give you 6 that you're about to have in the second half. Yes, exactly. They'll play more defensively and everything, but you have that same time. So anything can still happen. And I'm saying this because you're 30, you're not in the middle of your life. You don't even know when the middle of your life is. Because as long as you still have life, it means for every single year you might think you wasted, you missed, you still have enough time to catch up. So thank you so much for listening. The next episode, last episode was anchored by Tommy. I'm anchoring this episode. The next one will be anchored by Clinton. Clinton, what are we talking about next?
Well, masculinity. Basically, conceptions of masculinity and all of that. Because I've seen a lot of young people. We see them on the TL every day. I think there are a lot of guys that are getting misled because they really never really had maybe proper mentors or mentorship growing up, or at least people that they could look up to. We learned a lot of, even in our time, we learned a lot of rubbish we learned about sex, for instance, from older guys, probably like in secondary school.
Even your wrongest.
People didn't know what they were saying. Exactly, they didn't know what they were saying. And that's where you first heard about it. And you said if you want to buga, so don't be asking, you don't know what you're saying and all of that. So we're seeing the effects of all those kind of things now on social media, because this is not that era where everything was still pretty organic. Now it's social media. It's everybody's thoughts are just coming out. There are people who are also taking advantage of impressionable people to mislead them and drive certain ideas that make no sense, and I see a lot of guys are just lost, a lot of young people. And I wish, I've always wished to be able to at least say something So I think this is an opportunity for us to take from our own experiences, our own conceptions of masculinity, what it is to us, how we have defined it, and just take from our own experiences to really talk about issues surrounding men as a whole, and especially for young men who are coming up and who are hearing the wrong set of things. There has to be people out there who are also saying the right things, saying kind of things that will help them grow and basically build them up. And something that I'm passionate about personally. So
not to waste people's time. Thank you so much for everyone that have listened to this. This is TIC-Talk talking about adult in 301, life in your 30s. Class is over. My name is Innocent, and with me is
Clayton.
And all right. Have a good one, everyone, and see you for next episode. Bye.